Welcome back to the Zeus Podcast. I'm your host, Zeus The Prophet, and not even the force of Mother Nature can stop it, but I can. This is a space where we go deep on purpose, power, creativity, struggle, and awakening, all in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Tonight, we are blessed with a radiant voice full of retro soul, Motown fire, jazz roots, and genuine heart. Please welcome to the Zeus Podcast the incredible independent singer-songwriter Ashleigh Watson. Her debut album, Huntress, is out now, and it's been making waves. So go online, check it out. How's your spirit today?
Pretty good. Just living the dream. How are you going?
I'm doing fantastic. I feel blessed. The weather's been so crazy. It's been freezing lately, and everybody talks about global warming. I'm worried about global cooling, to be honest with you.
Literally, it goes both ways. And to be honest, I'm sitting here with my electric throw blanket. It's so good. Plug it into the wall, and I'm very glad for this invention right now, that's for sure.
Beautiful. So with every guest, I wanted to dive deep in order for me to properly give you your well-deserved flowers. Where were you born and what were you like as a child?
Well, I was born in Melbourne, Australia. And as a kid, very well behaved. I don't like breaking the rules. Always liked to be a good student, love school, very creative, quite spiritually open. I had a pretty relaxed childhood in that way. So yeah, I would say maybe schooling was kind of tough because kids don't like kids that are a little different, but I've always sort of been myself. And it just kind of worked out that way with this career that, I've always known that I wanted to take part in. Because if I had been a follower, if I'd been a sheep, then I would never have created my own music and be doing what I'm doing. So I feel like kids who, have creative careers, they can kind of suffer as a child because they often are the outcast. But I feel like often they're the most successful as well in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were born in Melbourne. Which suburb?
I moved around a fair bit, but I lived in Dandenong for a bit and Baronia for a while. And then when I was 8-ish, I actually moved up to far north Queensland. So I lived there for quite a few years as well before moving back down to Victoria.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I moved around a lot when I was younger too. Never
Yeah.
having a stable home. It drives you nuts sometimes.
Literally, I don't think some of my friends realize how lucky they are to have a childhood home, but I think that makes it even harder to leave as well. So maybe it's a blessing and a curse at the same
At
time.
the same time, you've known you were destined to be a performer since you were little. When was the first signs that you wanted to pursue singing and songwriting? What was that in the knowing like?
Literally, I thought everybody knew what they wanted to do when they grew up. It was never a question. It was just, I was always going to do, I always wanted to be a singer. I remember in prep, they used to do show and tell every Monday, and I would always sing at show and tell to the point where the teacher had to tell my mum to ask me to stop. And because it was too much. And now I'm like, well, girlfriend, people pay for that now, so you don't know how lucky you were.
But when did the music stop becoming a hobby and become your actual purpose?
Well, I always knew that it was what I was going to do. But if you're talking when I broke free of it becoming a hobby and actually starting to do it as a career or, having a monetary value, etc., it was in high school. So about 13 or 14 years old, I joined a world-renowned all-girl band called Sweethearts, which is a soul band. So they've been around for 30 plus years, and they're based out of Matthew Flinders Girls Secondary in Geelong, and
okay,
they have other schools joining in and allowing their students to partake nowadays, which is really great. But I was in that from about 14 years old until I was 22. So that's when it all started becoming actually gigging and doing it as a profession.
So you joined Sweethearts at 14? one of the youngest members, first rehearsals, stepping on big stages.
I was so nervous. I think too, like, I didn't quite understand what genre I had the passion for. Like, I knew that I loved Elvis from a young age. I knew that I loved Frank Sinatra. So I love jazz, I love soul, I love gospel. And so then getting into a Motown soul band, I really felt at home because it was like a divine guidance to get accepted into that school and get accepted into that band because it was what I was meant to do all along. And so whilst I was nervous, it was so right. And honestly, the girlfriends I made in that experience are still my friends today. So it was great.
Yeah. Well, performing at Porretta Soul Festival in Italy and the Jazz Festival in Switzerland, how did those international experiences shape you as an artist and a young woman?
I mean, 30 teenage girls running around Europe is bound to be a good time.
Right.
It was great. It was so great. I mean, I think probably Porretta would be my most memorable gig in general, not just from that European tour, but in general. It was this beautiful outside amphitheater, and I think it was about 3,000 in the audience, and the beautiful, warm Italian evening and the beautiful cobblestone streets in Porretta Terme where it's located. So much so that I'd really like to go back as a solo artist now. So that's definitely on the cards. But in terms of shaping you, I think the first time I went over, I was maybe like 19. And I don't know that it's necessarily in the moment or if it's hindsight that you really look back and go, some musicians will work their entire life and never get to experience something like that. We're just so lucky.
Absolutely. Your jazz background, how did studying jazz after school lay the foundation? And what drew you deeper into Motown, soul, and blues?
When I was like finishing up with Sweethearts at about 22, maybe a little earlier than that, I joined another funk band, a funk soul band, and the bass player at the time was a teacher at the Gordon in Geelong, where they ran a certificate for in jazz in their TAFE course. And he said to me, you should do the course. And I had no plans to sort of go back to school to study. Again, it was one of those divinely guided things where then I did the course, and some of Sweethearts girls were actually in it. And I also met other local musicians with whom I still play today in different bands. So again, it was one of those things where you make lifelong contacts for the industry. And
for sure.
I think too, it was in those moments that I probably developed a deeper appreciation and understanding of jazz, and also how closely related it is to soul. And that's why I like both genres, because they really are very closely linked.
Yeah, absolutely. From a young girl with big dreams to performing on legendary stages, that's a powerful foundation, sis. A lot of artists,
100%.
like you said, to consider themselves lucky to be on those stages. And also a lot of artists lose their way in the industry, but you stayed true.
Yeah.
And that's admirable, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to give you well-deserved flowers. So after Sweethearts, you became a session vocalist on The Voice Australia, is that right? An X Factor?
Yeah. So after I left Sweethearts and then finished the Cert 4 in jazz, I was gigging around in different bands. Some of the people that I met at the jazz course, we formed bands and whatnot. And as a side gig, I met some industry people just by chance who happened to be the people who would do the backing tracks for those shows like X Factor. And they asked me to come in and do the backing vocals for those. So the artists who were on the shows at the time would use those backing tracks. So that was great. I definitely got a taste for session work at that time, and ended up being a session vocalist on a couple of other artists' albums, such as Owl Eyes. She's another Australian artist. And that's how I fell into that. And I realized I really, really enjoy being in the studio. I feel like I work very quickly when I'm in the studio, and it's like a totally separate world to being on stage, but it's something that I really enjoy equally.
Absolutely. I second that notion. I enjoy the whole process. It's the labor of love. What were some of the highs and the hidden challenges of that world, like The Voice Australia and X Factor?
I think that at the end of the day, it's a TV show, and they want to be successful in having their TV show stay on air and get views and whatnot. So it isn't just about someone's raw talent. It's about their story as well. And so I think if you're going to partake in as a contestant on any of those shows, that you do really need to be willing to bare your soul in a very raw, instant kind of way that might shoot you into your 15 minutes of fame, but you equally have to be prepared for that downfall once the show's over. So I'm not sure that it's for everybody. It's a very niche world.
Traveling to LA to record Little Love with multi-platinum producer Warren Hart, I think it's pronounced?
Hewitt, yes.
Warren Hewitt. What was that Hollywood immersive music course experience like, and how did it push you to your songwriting?
That was a great starting platform. I went over, I think I was about 23-ish at the time, and we met with lots of industry professionals as part of the course, as part of the Hollywood Immersive course. There was songwriting workshops, and essentially I decided after completing that course that I wanted to take all of the knowledge that I'd gained during the course and go back over by myself to then put to work what I had learned. So I took meetings with lots of different producers, including Warren, and I had this song written, Little Love, already. And I sort of just proposed it to him, like, hey, would you be interested if I was to come over to record this with me? So that's how that came about. And then I went over several times. So I think I went over like 3 or so times to do that, and like from start to finish sort of thing.
Beautiful. That's pretty profound right there. Just take a shot, give it a chance. You got nothing to lose. You might as well. So that's how most of the opportunities that I've received in my life. Independent artist life in Melbourne, balancing day-to-day funding projects, building a fan base. What's your biggest obstacle and how did you overcome it?
Biggest obstacle? I think just navigating the world of the background stuff that goes along with releasing songs is daunting, and it's a lot. That was a whole new situation for me and I'm still even learning. There are issues that pop up even now. And yeah, I think honestly, having a good team with people that know more than you about the industry is really, really important, because honestly, for a long time, I was definitely flying blind, and man, that is so stressful. Like, the little legalities as well. You see, even just things like copyright and things like that if you don't, you kind of have to wear every single hat as an independent artist, and it's really hard. So I think having a team is resolution to that.
Having a good team, good support team, guide you in the right direction, especially when it comes to all these challenges. Like there's many trials and tribulations that I've faced as an independent artist myself, that I had no clue about. I had to learn on the fly type of thing. Just research what I was working on. Yeah, you have to wear every single hat, like you said. So true.
Exactly.
But now collaborating with award-winning producer Michael Cristiano, as to Eleanor Di Fiore from Fine Tune PR, who is an absolutely amazing and down-to-earth human being who I consider a personal friend of mine. So working with Michael Cristiano on Huntress, walk us through the album creation process, Sis. How long was it in the making, and what made this the right time?
Sure. A lot of the songs were written over the years. So Huntress is really compiled of every song that I had written to date, except for 1 or 2, which I had released as singles. And at the time, I was really struggling to find a reliable producer to do the whole album, because obviously, like, it's not always financially viable to travel over to LA and do an entire album every single time.
I understand. Right.
So I work with Michael at Deakin University, where we do their graduation gigs each year, and I was expressing my issues, and he offered to help me. So that's how that came about. And we had the best time in the studio recording it. And because we get along so well and have that personal rapport, I think it just added a certain magic to the album, because it was so enjoyable and we had a great time doing it. So he's very, very talented, and in many ways, he not only produced the album, but he plays nearly all instruments. So, like, in general, so on the album, he did play nearly every instrument. I had a wonderful saxophonist come in, Anton Deleka, to do some soloing, and a girlfriend of mine, Laura Baxter, she's a great singer. She came on and did some backings, but other than that, it was Michael and myself. So yeah, it was sort of like the whole package tied up into one, and that's then how Eleanor got brought on board, because she, of course, was working with Michael as his PR at the time, but then and now
Right.
his manager as well.
Right. That's an amazing. I love that album. I listen to it from start to finish, and I really can't get enough of it. You bring so much soul into it.
Thank you. I really
Now
appreciate it. In fact, yeah,
no, of course. No, go ahead.
I was just going to
Appreciate
say that I got in the mail today my vinyl version, my vinyl
Yay.
copy. I just realized I tore it. Oopsies. It got left out in the rain. My bad. So cool. So my mum's actually a graphic designer.
Wow.
So good because she's done all the artwork. I'm very lucky.
Wow, it's great. Can you hold it up so we can see it? Oh, beautiful. There it is. Yeah, it's a great work, great album. Everything about it is just phenomenal.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. So I want to talk about the Melbourne music scene for a bit. How has it supported retro soul artists like you? Any favorite local venues or moments?
Gigging my own music is something that is next on the agenda. First, it was important for me to have a product to gig, and that's what Huntress is. However, I am part of a jazz band called the Blue Tone Assembly, and we do a lot of jazz standards, and on occasion we've done one of my songs, one or two of my songs as well. But we do have to give a shout out to the Lido. It's a cinema and also has a jazz room in Hawthorne. So they have us back on a semi-regular basis. So yeah, they're great. Like, it's a really beautiful, like, vintage style venue, and it's a ticketed event. And it's one of those places where, when you're playing that venue, people are buying tickets because they're genuinely interested in that type of music. And so it's very, very different to, say, doing the wedding scene or a pub or anything like that, where you don't even know if people are listening. So I definitely have to give them a shout out. And there's also a sister company there's called Classic Southside, which is very, very similar as well, a cinema with an in-house jazz room, and it's the same deal. So yeah, there's that. And also the Castlemaine Jazz Festival, I just finished up with the Blue Tone Assembly boys as well. Of course, like them putting on an entire weekend is so good, and such a beautiful little town to hold the event as well.
Yeah, I as an independent artist, I feel the grind in my bones with hip hop, turning pain and persistence into art. And that's where the real power is. I know exactly what you're talking about. Now let's deep dive into your music and Huntress. Huntress is out now, so congratulations once again. What does
Thank you.
title mean to you, and what's the overall vibe or story of the album?
So the title, I wanted something that sounded a little mysterious and almost mystical, but also that encapsulated a feminine power, but also a femme fatale power. And so Huntress seemed interesting to me, as in the female version of a hunter, because a lot of the songs on the album do have quite a feminine or femme fatale mystery, mystique behind them. And in terms of like genre, I would say, it's very much R&B soul, but there are a lot of themes of like voodoo, like the, voodoo man or the devil in disguise type things. So I personally really enjoy writing lyrics from a, what would you say, like non-logical point of view, and having that little bit of a mystical vibe behind it.
I think that's what makes you you. Let's talk tracks. Charlie Brown. What's the story behind that?
That actually came from an experience with an ex who did have like a lot of narcissistic traits. And I think that what makes Charlie Brown interesting is that it's one of the more upbeat tracks on the album, but it's probably written about one of the most tumultuous relationships. And I think that's because I started writing it at the start of the relationship and finished writing it towards the end of the relationship, which is exactly how the arc of a narcissistic relationship goes, right? From the love bombing to the discarding. Which I'm quite happy to talk about, because and that's what I love about social media. As much as it has its downfalls, there's a lot more awareness about these types of toxic situations now. So yeah, that's where that came from, and it does have that element of being starry-eyed about a new partner, but there's red flags, so to speak, that you're picking up on, but you can't quite put your finger on what the issue is. And I think that's lyrically there's a lot of that hinting in Charlie Brown.
Beautiful. Is he looking at me? That feeling of being watched, or that spark of connection. How did that concept come about?
That was a literal situation, just meeting somebody in a space and feeling like you had an immediate connection with them, and that feeling that you get when you know someone's watching you. You can feel eyes on you from across the room and the hairs on the back of your neck do stand up. And I guess I emphasized that a little bit by being like, well, does he like me? Doesn't he like me? And that's where I guess that's a backbone of, is he looking at me?
Interesting. That's very interesting. Take me to the water, honey, friends, devil in disguise, more than her, down the barrel. Any favorites or behind the scenes stories for the listeners?
Again, Take Me to the Water is so different. And I wrote that because of my love for Italy and the Amalfi Coast. It's a bucket list destination for me. So I feel like just the aesthetics of that made such a beautiful visual like landscape for Take Me to the Water. So it does have a Latin vibe, but that is where it's written about, is the Amalfi Coast. But I'd say if I had to pick a favorite, it would probably be I Remember You, because it has that classic like retro soul vibe to it. And Anton, who I mentioned earlier, is playing saxophone on that one. And there's something so like chilled but pretty about the way it came out. I'm really happy with it.
Right. Beautiful. Any behind the scenes stories to share, or we'll
That
keep them a
one,
little hush?
I can definitely say that one was written about a friend of mine who lost a partner. So all of them have true stories, whether it was my story or somebody else's. But I feel like I like to draw from real experiences, because I feel like that's why people relate to your songs, right? Like you would know that as well. It's so wonderful for listeners to be able to relate, because that means that they can heal. It's like a cathartic experience for them.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I feel the same way, especially about my track Free Palestine, where I've received numerous messages. I mean, like nearly now almost on a daily basis. Someone from Gaza or someone from Palestine reaching out to me saying that my track has given them hope, and they listen to it on repeat, and they want me to be part of their revolution type of thing.
It's amazing.
And yeah, that's so profound, that how far and wide your music can travel and affect people in such a positive way. Now, how does Huntress blend jazz, soul, R&B, pop, and that mystical retro energy? Yeah, beautiful. Right. And speaking of the quality of work, he's able to perform something that's world renowned. The quality of the actual music, it hits my soul. It's really good. It's profound. I don't know. I mean, like always, when light workers do light workers shit, always something tries to stop it.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you hope people feel when they listen to your track front to back?
Okay. I think that what I hope people take away from listening to each track individually is the authenticity of my vocal delivery. It's really important to me that, like, because I come from a soul background and jazz and blues, that what I sing, like, I believe it, because I want my audience to believe it too. If I'm going to write songs, it's going to be something that I genuinely feel. So I think I want my audience to be moved by whatever it is and to feel what I feel in that. And that's what I was saying before. Like, I hope that my songs can be healing to people who resonate with whatever topic it is, and whether it's the whole album that they listen from start to finish, or whether they pluck a song from here and there.
So, Ashleigh, you brought out your vinyl copy of Huntress before, and that was pretty amazing, by the way. Why was physical release important for this debut?
I think personally, I just wanted to have a copy for myself. It was such a big deal to finally have an album out that I wanted to have something physical to show for it, because everything's digital these days, and it's such a big undertaking to do an album. I don't know. Yeah, it was a personal decision, and I think to a lot of close family and friends felt the same way. But in terms of having an actual vinyl and not just a CD, how could I not? Like, I'm obsessed with everything vintage, and it's a soul-based album, so I had to go for a vinyl.
Evolution from earlier singles like Little Love or Lolita to this album, how has your sound and confidence grown?
I think that my sound has evolved immensely. I think that those other songs were still in the right lane, like still on the right track, but they've just perhaps been beefed up a little bit. And of course, having Michael on board changes things as well because the songs are partly him. But, I think it also depends on what you're into at the time. Like, and as I said, with something like Take Me to the Water, I'm very obsessed with Italy at the moment. So the sound is going to have a bit of that
Same
Latin
here.
type
Same.
vibe. Do you know what I mean?
And that's thanks to Eleanor as well. Shout out to Eleanor De Fiore. I am completely inspired. Definitely one of my bucket lists is the Amalfi Coast. Having said that, are you a very spiritual person?
Definitely very spiritual person. Yeah. I know you are too, aren't you?
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
More religious growing up until I discovered the spiritual aspects, the spiritual side of my life and what it meant, why all these things kept happening to me, and I sort of broke free from the chains. So I'm pretty much like the first chain breaker in my family.
Amazing.
And it's got a lot to do with me being spiritual. No, it's not that religion didn't. It's that religion was very confusing at the time. But when I say chain breaker, I mean from the generational trauma that I've faced during my life. And I've able to take those chains off now and just run free in who I am, what I'm about, what I represent, who I am as a person. I never felt that growing up. I always felt just like you, I've moved around to a lot of different areas, a lot of different places, met a lot of different people, never was stable anywhere. And I felt as though I was called for something greater in this world. I've always felt that ever since I was young. So I never was able to really do that because we've come from very, very violent upbringing. You know? But until I discovered the spiritual side of myself or who I am as a person and as an artist, was able to break free.
That's amazing. And kudos to you, because a lot of people don't even know that they have generational traumas, let alone break free from them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot has to do with my wife, God bless her. She helped me through a lot of these things and helped me realize what it was all about and how to overcome these things.
That's amazing.
For example, dealing with emotions. Like emotions come and go. I used to hold on to them, but now I just let them come and let them go. I don't hold on to them. This is one of the examples of how she was able to help me. But also on the journey myself, I was able to talk to a lot of elders, a lot of highly spiritual people, if you will. And they gave me a lot of inside secrets in order to understand myself and how to break free from this chains. Because I always knew I was trapped, but I didn't know how to break free. But this album, it feels like a journey through love, self, and soul. Music like yours, it heals in many ways. Words can't alone. That's how I feel when I listen to your album. Your music carries deep emotional and also spiritual resonance. How do faith in a knowing or spiritual awakening influence your songwriting and performances?
I'm going to answer that, I think, initially through how it affects my performances. And I think that whenever I'm performing live, or even if people are listening to my songs, the biggest takeaway is that I want them to feel what I'm singing about, because I feel what I'm singing about, especially if it's my own song. I think that's a really spiritual thing, to be able to emit that vibration towards your audience. And, I sometimes play a little game where if I'm playing in a jazz club or whatnot, and there are people at the bar talking, my goal by the end of the song is to have everyone stop talking and be so just emotionally drawn to what I'm, that they stop talking. And I think that when you're really centered within yourself and you're really connected to the music, there is this feeling that you do get when you perform. It's like you're literally vibrating those frequencies out towards the audience of what you're singing about. And I feel like you can tell by their faces, and you can tell by the way that they applaud at the end that they felt it too. And I do think that that's a really spiritual act in itself.
Absolutely. Especially in that noisy, divided world.
Yeah.
So how does creating soul music serve as light or redemption for you and your listeners?
I think it's so honest. I think that you can sing about many things, but when you dare to sing about something that maybe people generally would not, they might generally keep to themselves, facing those topics, and whether it's myself singing about them and that's cathartic in that way, or whether it's someone listening to them, listening to the songs, I feel like, yeah, it's healing in those ways, because they're like, gosh, I feel that, or I've been through that. And it's like, they don't necessarily have to tell anybody that they are feeling like they resonate with it either, but it's like an inner acknowledgement.
Absolutely. And as a woman in music, navigating industry pressures while staying authentic, what wisdom would you share with your younger artists about protecting their spirit?
I think that choosing your team wisely is immensely important. However, unfortunately, sometimes you can have to, what do they say, like kiss a lot of frogs to find the prince, like there's going to be a lot of, whether it's men or not, there's going to be a lot of people out there that make phony offers towards you, or like just a lot of people that want to talk themselves up, like, oh, I could do this for you and I could do that for you, but literally they can't. So I think using your discernment and having a good home base, whether it's your parents or whatnot, to be watching out for you until you find a good support team is really important. And even then, just always watch out for yourself. And I think that you have to let people show you who they are through their actions. Like, never take someone at face value. I know that sounds really cynical, but you just can't.
That's just how it is. All by the words. I mean, I always say, and that's a motto of mine as a hip hop artist, actions speak louder than words, but the message behind the action is a universal language. So what people do really speaks volumes,
100%.
So, but amen to that. We're both using our gifts to point towards truth and healing. Now that's real work.
Yeah.
Now this section here that we're entering is called the fun section on the Zeus podcast. Okay. Now, if you could duet with any artist, dead or alive, Motown legends, modern, or even hip hop, who would they be and why?
That is such a tough one.
I told you we're going to get deep.
There are so many, but I think that I would kick myself if I didn't choose Elvis. He's like epitome of like angel to me. So I think it'd just have to be Elvis, and the reason would be because I love him. Like, it'd have to be Elvis. I would have to share the stage, and I mean, to be fair, he is was so soulful. So I don't think it's that much of a far-fetched decision either.
God bless him. I really think he's still alive, to be honest with you. Yeah,
I mean, if he is, I hope he hears this. You know what I'm saying?
Towards that, But since we're doing the fun section, here's a bit of a fun fact for you. On one of my music videos, The Art of War, we shot on location at the Carlton Cemetery where Elvis's memorial is.
Wow.
Yeah. And I specifically chose that spot because that's how much I love Elvis.
Really? There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's one of the greats to me. If not, like Elvis, Prince, Tupac, Michael Jackson for sure. I mean, I used to listen to Michael Jackson every day on the radio when it came out. And we used to have cassettes back then. We used to, in order to rewind the shit, you'd have to put a pencil in there and rewind it. That's how much I love these artists. Dream performance, venue, or festival, anywhere in the world.
I think I'm going to go back to what I was saying before, like when we first began. At the moment, it's really Paretta for me, the Paretta Soul Festival in Paretta Terme, Italy. I think because it would hold extra significance because I was there with the Sweethearts so many years ago, to have come, in a way, like full circle, to be able to go back as my own artist would be so self-fulfilling, because it would be like my teenage self this is what I would have hoped that I would have done, was that I would have continued with my craft and would be working with a team to have my own music. So I think that it would be like a really deeply fulfilling and spiritual experience to go back there. And not just because I love the place, but yeah, for those reasons as well.
Beautiful. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Like in music or in life?
In life in general, and music, whatever you want.
Something that comes to mind is not to worry. And that's such a huge one because it's so hard not to worry. But, touching on spirituality, if you are into manifestation, worrying about the cursed hows it works against you in manifesting your ideal world. And whether it's manifesting or whether it's just like literally living, worrying about how things are going to be, things that are out of your control, work against you, and they are so detrimental to your mental health. And it's something that I still work on. Like I find myself to be quite a big worrywart. I definitely have OCD tendencies, which does tend to mean that I can ruminate on things as well, which doesn't help. But I think anybody who can, as you were saying before, like have emotions come up and let them go sooner rather than later, or not worry about stuff that may or may not happen. It's like a very fine art. And I feel like the people who can do that would be among the most enlightened for sure.
That was pretty profound. What's your guilty pleasure is in food wise? Favorite food in Melbourne?
I mean, literally pizza, just period. And I'm gluten and dairy intolerant, so it's the worst. So it literally is a guilty pleasure because it contains every ingredient that I shouldn't eat, but I be eating it like
if you ever in Pascaval, check out Scrooge's Pizza.
Absolutely, I'll be there.
Good friend of mine, Zane, and his family own it, and there's some of the best pizzas in town. So
I'm down.
Definitely check out Scrooge's when you're in that neck of the woods.
Okay.
Also, for the kids and families listening, what's one wholesome or uplifting message from your journey?
Never give up. Stick to your dreams, no matter what other people think of them, because eventually you'll find your niche, the people who have the same types of dreams as you, and you won't feel like such an outcast anymore.
I wish I heard that advice a long time ago.
I know, same.
This has been absolutely wonderful tonight, Ashleigh Watson, thank you for sharing your heart, your voice, and your story on the Zeus Podcast. Follow Ashleigh Watson Music. I'll put all her links in the description under this video. Ashleigh, it has been an absolute pleasure and an honor to have you on tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed chatting.
Family,
Thank you.
If it hits your soul, share it, comment your favorite moment on the track. Huntress, the album's out now, and support independent artists. Stay in the light, speak the truth, walk in purpose, fam. This is Zeus the Prophet, and not even the force of Mother Nature can stop it, but I can. Peace and blessings in the name of Jesus Christ. God bless you, Ashleigh. It's been
Thank you
such
so
an honor.
much. Thank you.
Talk to you soon, sis.
Bye-bye.
Good night.